Welcome to the Tim Macy Show. And the whole Avengers movie is coming out today. Obviously, if you saw my last video, you know I'm a complete Marvel nerd, and so we're going to see that movie tonight. We're pretty excited about it.
Are you going to see it? Man. I will definitely be going to see it, but I can't go see it tonight. Maybe I can go see it tonight. I just need to convince somebody to watch my child. Who wants to watch my child? You don't have to have any qualifications.
Dude, yeah, the babysitting, man, that makes it tough. Yeah. It makes it tough.
We'll find it, though. We got to get out there for sure. But 3 hours, dude. So are you going to, is it a catheter, or are you going to take a bucket, or like, how are you going to?
Oh, come on, man. You just got to pee before you go in. You spend most of your day not going to the bathroom for 3 hours. You just got to plan. It's like anything else in life. You just have to plan better.
That to be the quote, the caption that goes on.
Oh, man. That you froze for a second. We missed your punchline.
Oh,
it was good. You froze with like your hands up next to your face and kind of funny looking.
No, I was saying that needs to be the caption of the video, is that you spend most of your day not going to the bathroom. Like that's what this is all about, right?
Exactly. All right, Grant. So I've got a lot of real estate agents that are listening to this. A lot of real estate people. But I know you've found success on the investing side of things. You found it relatively quickly, I'd like to think, comparatively. So tell me your story. Like, what were you doing before real estate, and how'd you get started?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got your basic rags to riches story. I mean, I grew up in a small 3-bedroom, 1,100 square foot home in Garland, a suburb over here. Had gang signs tagged on the front of it and stuff like that. I don't come from money and know people with money. Nobody in my family had money. But I knew that real estate was where, like, you build wealth, right? I think it's no mystery to anybody that real estate has made more millionaires than anybody else. So the fast forward of it all is that I quit my job with, enough money to, on a very scrimped budget, live for about 5 or 6 months, and became a millionaire within 5 years. And it was through real estate and the amazing stuff that you're able to do from that. So I grew up, like I said, it was a small house and that kind of, but I was loved. I had great parents. They really took care of me. I'm not trying to my life was not that rough.
Sure.
I ended up working, so I was a musician for a while, played in bands and worked in a recording studio and thought I was going to be a rock star. Then I ended up working, because the real world hit, I was an IT professional and doing kind of automation for a stock company. And then that is the job that I quit to do what I have now come to find out is called house hacking, where you buy a duplex and you live in half and rent the other half.
Yep.
And then kind of from there, like, my first tenant was, she said the wonderful words that we all hope to hear, which is, "I'm just ready to let it go back to the bank." I said, "Whoa, don't do that. You should sell me the house." And so away I go on the keyboard, taka. How do you buy houses without having any money? And seller financing is the thing that pops up. So I am a puzzle guy. I like putting puzzle pieces together. I like being creative. I like having ideas. And so this kind of checked off all the marks for me. And so I was able to figure out through seller financing how I could acquire all these properties without actually having any money in my bank account. And so that's where I got started, was buying houses subject to, buying houses with owner financing. And, it took me within my first 8 months, I was consistently buying and putting 6 to 8 houses a month into my own portfolio. And that's just not something that you get to do with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, All
right, well, let's go back a little bit, because all that stuff's super fun. I love, putting puzzle pieces together when it comes to seller financing, wrapping stuff, all the different things that are out there that you can do. But I want to go back, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to take that leap. I want to take that jump. You had a job. If you don't mind me digging in, what were you making at the job? How much of an income were you leaving?
Yeah.
And how much did you put away to really be able to take that leap and get started?
I love that you're actually getting these answers out there, because this is one of the number one guru. No,
I hate the fluff. About that. Yeah, I'm all about let's get out of the fluff. Let's get real.
I love it because that's very much, I agree with that. I think that's the right thing to do. I think my big push in this industry is, let's be real about stuff. Let's let people know what actually is happening. So the reason I left was when I got hired for my job, and some of you may relate to this who are working the 9 to 5, I got hired for a job that I was not qualified for, but I proved through kind of working my ranks up, hey, give me a shot, right? When I interviewed for the job, they were like, do you know what this job is starting at? And I said, no. And they said, it's 55 to 60 a year. And I said, great. Then they gave me an offer at 44. And I'm like, okay. And so, but I took it because I had no option. Like, I was not qualified for this, right?
Yeah.
So, so long story long, I ended up where I was making 48 a year, and I went to him and I was like, look, either you need to give me 55, which is what the starting rate was when I interviewed for this. And from a very quantifiable, I was outperforming everybody tenfold in my department. And I was like, or I'm out to do real estate. And they said, sorry, we're not going to give you the 55. So I said, I'm out. So I was making 48. I cashed out my 401k that we are told to be thankful for that 3% match on. And that was what I had to live on I had about 6 months of expenses there, which meant that I had about, if I remember right, it was between $6,000 and $7,000 that I had.
So you're talking $1,000 a month when you say you put, okay.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
I am not encouraging you to save up $6,000 and say, screw you, boss, I'm out.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that this seems to be a pretty common thread. Actually, I take that back. I think it was closer to $9,000. I think I had $9,000. Anyway, but I appropriated some of that to marketing, as you should.
Yep.
But I will say that there is a common thread in those people that I know who are successful in the industry. Again, caveat here, I'm not your financial planner. I'm not telling you to do this. But a common thread of the guys that I know who have gone biggest, fastest are jump and the net will appear. Right?
Well,
and that was kind of where I was.
Well, going back to what you're talking about, I also find that most of the successful guys started with nothing. And tell me about what kind of lifestyle you were living in those first couple of years.
Yeah, so, at that point in time, I only had 2 Lamborghinis, and I was really slumming with the BMW 5 Series. So my lifestyle there was, again, I was living in a duplex that was not in the great. So, like, for those of you who are familiar with the Dallas area, I was in West Dallas on this duplex. So there is a street called Harry Hines, which is where all the hookers and strip clubs are. And then I do
not know that area. Okay.
Oh, sure you don't. Yeah. I know where I found
right.
You. So there's Harry Hines, where it's like all the hookers and blow, and then there's like 3 miles this way to the east is where President George Bush lives. Yeah. So there's this very not Rick. What's the big-eared presidential race guy from the early '90s? Ross Perot.
Ross Perot. Yeah.
George Bush, the owner of the Mavericks. Everybody lives in this area called Preston Hollow.
Yeah.
So there's like Preston Hollow and hookers, and I was right here, right? So
good
it's like,
to be.
What's that?
I said, sounds like a good place to be.
Right. Yeah. So we dealt with the crime and we were closer to the hookers than we were the Bushes. Well, I won't. And so then so I'm in this, and it's like a I don't know. One side was 1,200 square feet. One side was 1,500 square feet. We lived in the 1,500 square foot side. It had a converted attic that my wife used as a crafts room. Nice. So it was a smaller place, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It was nice enough, right? We bought it for $192, and we're not lavish. We're not like living outrageous, but like we're taken care of. We had food on the table, and we could go see a movie here and there. You know what I mean? Like, but it wasn't so much when you say what was your lifestyle. I'm interpreting that as like, how could you spend at that point in time? Really, the answer to what was my lifestyle when I quit. Is that really the kind of the thing? Is like what? Because once I quit, my lifestyle, and I'm not exaggerating, this is not a let me make up a sexy number so that people think I'm cool kind of thing. I literally averaged 15 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 18 to 20 months to make this happen. Yeah. Right. So lifestyle was work your butt off after you quit.
When it comes to spending money, it's not like you had time to spend money. Anyways,
right. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like
the reason why I'm hitting it is because one thing that I've seen in a lot of successful people in my circle are that, one, they worked their butt off when they first got started. They quit their job. They did the whole, burn the boats and go thing. But they worked their butt off and they lived broke. I mean, what happens is in this industry, you hit some success and all of a sudden you're making more money in a week than you thought you'd make in a year, right? And you're like, holy crap, this is awesome. Let's book the cruise. Let's buy, you know what I mean? Let's start, living a lifestyle. And for me, the most successful people that not have been successful in the last year, the last 2 years in a great
Right.
market, but the people that have been successful for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years are guys that started and they lived broke and they built their business and they never took a dime out of it unless they had to, and they kept pouring back in, and now they reap the benefits. But
well, and frankly, I think one of the important things to talk about is along those lines, which is if you have a spouse or a significant other, they are just as much your partner in this than any kind of business partner you're going to have.
Yes.
And you have to be very clear with them what the expectations are. This is not, hey, baby, look at this commercial with the guy that has a Lamborghini and a yacht. I'm going to quit my job, put real estate investor or real estate agent on my business card, and that's going to be ours. This is, you're going to have to go in there and bust your butt for a while. And we lived broke for years.
Yep.
Even after I was making good money in real estate, I wasn't bringing money home because you've got so many deals coming. All the cash that's coming in, you're buying more houses. Everything that's coming in is going right back out, right? So it was a difficult time with my wife, who's amazing and was the most support. I would not be here without the support that she had. But trying to let her understand, no, sweetie, we're millionaires. Like we really are making money, I promise. Even though you don't see anything. We're doing okay, and that's a difficult part of, if you're going to do this the right way, like you said, you got to live broke. You got to put that money back in.
And what's tough now too is watching other people, right? Like your friend who probably makes less money than maybe we do going on a vacation, and you're like, why aren't we going on vacation? You know what I mean? And this whole comparison culture, which can be really tough. Can really like make you feel like you should be doing stuff. But right now, I mean, we've got a little bit of money in the bank, and I need to go buy a house. Like I need to buy an investment property. Like you said, I need to keep pouring in until all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, all right, I've made it. Right now, I mean, I don't know if I ever will feel like I have, because I surround myself with guys like you and people that are more successful than I am. But to me, I still don't feel like I'm anywhere near made it, and I need to keep pouring back in. But I just think it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think on those same lines, so there's two topics that I like to bring up that don't get talked about a lot, kind of specifically because of that. One being the comparison culture and how toxic that is, because no matter how much you make, you're not going to make as much as Mitch. you're not going to be Eddie Speed. You're not going to be these guys that have been around. That there will always, and I'm sure they have guys that they're looking at that they're just like, holy crap about, right? There is always going to be that next level up. The other thing that nobody talks about is, guys, entrepreneurial depression is a real thing. You are going to struggle with depression if you decide to go down this road. And I say that very certainly, which, it's stupid to talk in certainties ever. But I feel very confident in saying, with all the guys that I've known who are entrepreneurial, myself included, you're going to struggle with depression. And part of it is through the comparison culture. And part of it is just I've been working 90 hours a week, and I don't have any money in my bank account. I got 50 houses in my portfolio, and I can't afford to fix my truck or whatever, because it's like you're putting everything back in, and you can go down this road and you will deal with depression. It's going to happen, but you've got to have the mental fortitude, A, to expect that that's going to happen, B, to have the support systems around you with other people who are willing to admit that that's going to happen and stop acting like what happens on Facebook is real. And
except for this show, we keep it real here. Everything else is fake, though.
Well, I mean the Facebook millionaire.
I know what you mean.
The look at this check that I got.
Yeah, that is, man. I don't care if we don't talk a single thing about doing deals, because I think this is really, really important. Because nobody talks about it. Nobody is talking about it. Everybody is only talking about success. Yeah, and the problem is with being an entrepreneur is, one, everybody does it differently, right? And so, if I work at a job and I do well, maybe I get a promotion, maybe I get a bonus at the end of the year, maybe I get something that says, hey, you're doing a good job. And when you're an entrepreneur, especially, I don't know, like me, I think like you, we keep moving the goalposts, right? And we're never really there. And so we don't really know if we're doing the right thing. Like, I don't wake up and like, okay, I did everything I need to do and I'm successful. Like, no, it's like this constant thing of trying to move forward. And that, I think, is where it can get depressing.
It can be. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And again, it's I think that it's very important if you're going to be an entrepreneur. So here's the thing. What happens is, again, we're in a Facebook culture. We're in an Instagram culture. We're in this culture that We have seen people get success because they have, from flashing a check that they got at the closing table, right? Guys, I'm here to tell you, somebody who's had his name on 1,400 plus HUDs, sometimes you're going to get a big check from the closing table and lose money on the deal. It's, it's the reality of it is there, right? And people don't like to talk about that. People like to show the check so that they get more followers, so that they get more people that watch their videos and stuff. And so then what happens when you are one of the followers who was impressed by that, and then you have to get hit by a brick wall of reality of, wait a minute, doing this business is actually really freaking hard. And we're not making the money that everybody said that we were going to make. And it's taking me 9 months to gain traction on this business that I thought was going to happen overnight. And you kind of start spiraling down, right? So you've got to have proper expectations, because I would say that improper expectations are the number one reason for the giant churn that we have in this industry, both with agents and with investors, is that you get in expecting real estate makes all this money. Look at this guy who had no money, and now he has all this money. I can do that, but you forget to actually appreciate. When I say I worked 18 hours a day, I mean I worked 18 hours a day. I was showing houses on Christmas morning. That is how you get there, right? And it takes time and endurance to get through that, right? So again, being open, again, understanding what really is happening on the other side of that, and kind of keeping your blinders on and not moving the goalpost on yourself.
And the other thing too is, I think if you surround yourself, and this is one of the interesting things with social media, is that we're more connected with more people, which has these great benefits, right? Like you and I can interact with each other, where previously, if it wasn't for social media, we probably wouldn't interact with each other.
Away from each other right now.
Right? On the same hand, though, you need to have those people that you physically surround yourself with, that you physically talk to, that are, maybe mentors, people that are doing it, but, people that are doing it in real life. Because if all you're surrounded by are these people on social media that are making it seem way better than what it is, then you're not getting that interaction of, holy crap, I just had a crappy deal. Look, I list houses for investors that are losing money. Like, it happens more regularly than anybody wants to talk about. But if all I saw was, all the glitz and glam, then I would think there was something wrong with me and that I wasn't doing it right, because I wasn't, feeling the success. So surrounding yourself with people that are actually doing it and will talk to you about actual problems, I think also it helps out a lot.
And I think one of the things, too, to point out, as we're on that topic of the social media fake life and all that kind of stuff, is like right now, I think it's no mystery to anybody. We're in a very difficult market, right? Across the nation. We're in a difficult market to do business. And
it's interesting you say that, because it wasn't 3 months ago I wasn't hearing that. And I'm not hearing it, and I'm not hearing that from the realtor side, right? Right now, there's a lot of buyers and sellers, but I am hearing it from the investor side. And I feel like the investor side is kind of an indicator that it's coming to our side. So it's going to be, I don't know, it'll be interesting.
That is, that's an interesting perception on that. Crap. So what I was going to say is, when you see, so here's another mistake of people getting into the business, is they equate volume to success. Volume of deals is not success. People are doing crap deals left, right, and center just because Jim that they follow on Facebook closed 10 deals last month. I've got to get a deal under my belt or I'm failing. Well, guess what? Jim on Facebook might have lost a bunch of money on 10 deals last month, right? I have a perfect example of that happened to me specifically, because I do like training and personal mentoring and that kind of thing. So at my hacked house, I was in that neighborhood driving home every day, and there was a house that went up that I wanted, and I tried to make a run for it, and somebody outbid me. And then I had to watch this house get rehabbed over the next few months and become beautiful and go on the market and sell. And the whole time wondering, how did I miss out? How did I miss this? I'm creative. I know how to make money out of deals.
Yeah.
Why is it these other guys can come in here and do deals that I can't? Fast forward about 3 years, and I had a lady sitting on the other side of the table, because I turn away almost as many people as I bring in on the mentorship thing, because I want to make sure that like I can actually help somebody. And there's many reasons I might turn somebody away. And I'm turning this person away for mentorship. And she's begging me to take her on as a student. So she starts telling me why she should be one of my students. And she starts telling me about this deal that she lost $75,000 on, and how she went in and she made it beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And this went wrong and this went wrong. And because she bought it for too high, she lost $75,000. It was that house, right?
Yeah.
So often you may not realize it, but that thing that you are have pictured in your head of this beautiful, they're making money and they know something that I don't. Sometimes the best way to make money is to not lose money and to have not gotten the deal.
Yeah. We say it all the time. It's like people who win multiple offer situations aren't always winning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, don't pride yourself on paying the most. That doesn't make any sense. Well, and I mean, look, on the real estate agent side,
right?
It's like, we did 54 deals last year, which is pretty good.
That is good.
That's mostly my wife and I. That's a couple that, we partner with other people on. But, there was a couple months in there where we had a lot of transactions. Mm-hmm. And we do real estate and we run our business the way we do because we want to have a certain life. And when I go to these events and I see the guy on stage talking about how they did 300 deals last year or however many, like I don't want to do 300 deals.
Right.
Like I don't want to live that life that it would take to close that many transactions.
Yep.
And so, you got to dial it back in and figure out, what life do I want to lead? And is my business like going that way? Because like we go back to social media stuff,
right?
You try to emulate somebody else that's not you. Mm-hmm. You're not going to find fulfillment. You need to figure out what you're looking for in life and make sure your map is taking you there.
Two things I want to say to that. One being, one of my phrases I always point out to that topic is there's more than one way to get paid. Cash is only one of them, right? Lifestyle is one of them. Relaxation is one of them, right? Like cash is only one way to get paid. And so, like you said, I don't want to have to give my whole life over to this. I want to go home and hang out with my wife and watch the newest.
I want to go to the movies.
Movie, Secondly, I want to rewind a second because I remembered the point that I was trying to make that I hopefully elegantly moved away from, so you didn't realize that I completely lost my train of thought. But the train of thought that I was trying to go down around the entrepreneurial depression. Well, see, me even just joking about that made me lose my train of thought. Never mind. We'll move on.
Were we moving on?
Yeah, we're moving on.
I
have another point that is important that I want to make about the entrepreneurial depression, and I've forgotten it twice, but whatever. I'll remember it and jump in.
I'm glad we touched on it because, like I said, I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's something that's so prevalent. I mean, I know it's prevalent from people talking about it, let alone all the people that aren't saying anything. So
I remembered it. I'm going to say it before I forget.
Do it.
The thing that I think leads a lot of us into that entrepreneurial depression is that we completely neglect ourselves because we get into this mode where it's like, for my company to succeed, I have to do this. For my company to succeed, I have to work this weekend. For my company to succeed, I have to stay up late. I have to make this call. I have to do this. I have to do that. The thing I want to get through to everybody is, for your company to succeed, nothing is more important to the success of your company than you being in a mental state where you can handle the work that needs to happen. So you have to set that time aside for whatever that thing is that fills you up and do that on a weekly basis to make sure that your company succeeds.
Yeah, I've been slacking in that personally, honestly. So I definitely know that when I look back to times that I was operating at a peak and the best is when I'm making sure I'm carving out the mornings for myself and making sure that, I'm taking the time out. My buddy Byron Lazine, who runs the East Coast 5 a.m. call, says you have to be selfish in the morning so you can be selfless for the rest of the day. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, same type of deal. But all right, I think we talked about some very good, important topics, but let's get into tactics. Let's start talking about real deal stuff. So one thing for agents, I'm sure you work with agents, right? You see people that are licensed all the time. We have this interesting thing, right? Because like my business, and this is not a knock on investors at all, but it's there's a business
but
run.
Investors suck.
Well, but no, I mean, it's just like every business has like a North Star, right? Mm-hmm. That you're moving towards kind of every day. It's how you make money. And when you're a real estate investor, you're finding deals that make money, right? My business is helping people, right? And investors do help people. There's plenty of situations where investors help people, but that's not the North Star of their business. So the North Star of my business is helping people in their real estate transactions. With that being said, how do real estate agents that are in that pursuit still find good deals and execute on them? because I can't go in to somebody's house and buy it for half of what it's worth without me clearly explaining to them how much I think it's worth and that they could get more, you know?
So I think that that's a really good topic because I would argue a little bit with the definitions of our North Star, right? So let me preface this by saying that like I do some negotiations teaching and some series on negotiating, and one of the things that I make sure, I mean, it's a cornerstone of our negotiating, and I always I can't stand, and this is going to speak to your narrative, I can't stand when you ask a real estate investor, why are you doing this? And they say, because I love helping people. Because I'm so happy to help people.
I'm not knocking them. It's just not true.
You're not here to help people. If you wanted to help people, you'd be working for the Red Cross. You're in real estate because there's zeros behind it. So that works to your narrative. What works against your narrative is it's the same exact thing for an agent. You're not here to help people. If you wanted to help people, you'd be working for the Red Cross. You chose that real estate as an agent was a way that you could help people while making yourself a lot of money, right? And I think we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, the difference is, like, if I have a seller, right, the only thing I'm looking at is trying to recommend what the best option for them is. And that's whether or not I make money, right? Like, there are plenty of times I've gone to a listing appointment and talked somebody out of selling because I know they're not going to find a better home than the one they're in for a lower monthly payment and that type of stuff.
But I think ethical investing plays into that role as well, because when I'm investing, I don't tell them, oh, well, I think your house is going to sell for the low 70s whenever I fix it up. I tell them what my ARV is.
Yeah.
I tell them, I'm like, look, if this house was fixed up, it would sell for this, right? Like your house in its condition right now is not worth what your house would be with it all fixed up. Now, you've got some options. You can either list it with an agent and put it on the market and hope to find somebody who will come in here and buy it, or I'm your 7-Eleven. People are willing to. So like I'm kind of in that mode of. So I'm very like politically middle ground. I've got a lot of left. I've got a lot of right. One of my very
over
right
somewhere else. I don't like any of them.
Something that's very right about me is that I am very much. Look, we're adults. Let adults make decisions, right? Mm-hmm. If everybody has all the information and they choose to move forward with something, then that's the best option for them. And so I think it's very important that we present to our sellers the options that they have. But if the option that they want is to have somebody pay them right now to move into this house right now, well, that value for me is X amount of dollars. Therefore, that is their best option. Because a real estate agent is not giving them that check tomorrow. A real estate agent is signing them up, putting them on the market, hoping to find somebody that's hopefully strong enough of a buyer who can come to close, and then 30 or 45 days later, usually, sometimes sooner, they actually close and they get their money if the lending goes through, if. Whereas, yes, if you go to Walmart, you are going to get a cheaper gallon of milk than if you go to 7-Eleven, but your line is going to be longer and you're going to have to walk longer to get there. So some people choose to get milk from 7-Eleven, and that's who I am.
I love that end of things, right? Like agents are flipping out about Open Door and some of these other things that are coming. And I think it's ridiculous, right? Because Open Door is just looking at, okay, how can we buy more houses and make the process for the client easier, the homeowner easier, right? How can we make the process easier? And agents are just looking at how can I keep myself in the transaction. So I'm with you. Like an agent should only be in a transaction if they're adding value. You know? Oh, we got questions though, man.
Good. I like questions.
Yeah. Can you make it flipping houses while also doing construction work and managing the business yourself?
Yeah, so that's one of the, and actually Chase is, I love Chase. Me and Chase go way back. One of the things that like I encourage people to try to do is to pay everybody else for what they're good at until you become good enough at it to fire them, right? There's no point in reinventing the wheel on things because there's going to be so much that you have to do to get into this business. That focus on the things that you're good at and allow the other professionals to do the things that they're good at and work together. And maybe you make a little bit of a lot versus a lot of a little bit, but it helps you get going on things, right? If the thing that you're good at is the construction work, right? Then yeah, absolutely. Like you absolutely can make that. You are probably going to do fewer deals but you are going to keep the money that would have been spent on paying a contractor to do that work. Now, if that formula makes sense to where it's kind of like, so I'm going to make an analogy that hopefully makes sense. People ask about like debt, right? Using debt, and does it make sense? There's the Dave Ramsey never put debt, and then there's other philosophies of just fully leveraging everything out. And kind of my response to that is like, well, if your debt is 3% and you're going to make 20% on that money, then it makes sense to leverage it, right?
Yeah.
But if you were, because like the most common time that this question comes up is like, should I cash out my IRA or something and invest it, right? Well, what can you make on your money in that IRA account? Is it 8%, 9%? Well, what can you make if you cash it out and invest it? Is it 30%? Then it makes more sense to do that, right? So similarly, that can go for your man hours as well. Does it make more sense for your time, if you invest your time into the construction of that property, will it return more for you in that dollar amount that you've saved by paying another contractor than if you invested your time on managing and building the business on kind of a larger scale? If the answer is yes, then yeah, do it that way. If the answer is no, then hire a contractor and invest your time on building out a larger system.
So I like your answer from a logical approach, but sometimes humans aren't logical, right? Like I think it's a good example, like the Dave Ramsey thing.
Yeah.
If you look at the Dave Ramsey plan, you can pick it apart as not the right way to do things, right?
Sure.
But it's a human nature thing. That's why the Dave Ramsey plan works, because it works better with human nature. And when Chase brings up this question, I think about people that are doing their first, second, third flip. And a lot of times I think it's a great idea for them to do the work, because I don't know about you, but there's so many paid for learning experiences, right? When people flip their first house, they lose money on it. And most of that usually has to deal either with the buy or the contractor. Like they use a contract took a bunch of money from them. So if you can get in there and get a little bit more hands-on than technically you probably should be doing, I think it's great on your first couple to maybe lower your risk of losing a bunch of money, but then ultimately transitioning out to what you're talking about, where you're working on your business, not in your business, so on and so forth.
And I dig that as well. And again, only encouraging that if you are an experienced construction person. Don't just watch HGTV and be like, oh, well, I saw that guy hold a sledgehammer and his tool belt didn't have a speck of paint on it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, no,
that's
listen,
not how real life works.
If you see me touching electrical, it's it's not going to be pretty.
Bad day. How do we test if it's tough? I don't know. Touch it.
Right. All right. Jeremy Knight asks, how do you vet contractors? This is a big one. Everybody has problems here. So what do you got for this?
Yeah, that one's difficult. So, unfortunately, I have to say that I kind of lucked out in this area. Whenever I got into this business, I got in by bugging somebody that was extremely successful and JVing on deals with them. And I think that that's really the best route to go, honestly, with getting started in the business, is get somebody who's experienced to work by your side. And because of that, he had crews he had been working with for 30 years, and I got to use those crews and inherit them, right? I didn't have to go through this process. Now, one of the things that I've heard some people do is go up to Home Depot at 5 a.m. and see who's up there getting their supplies and getting ready to go, because those are the guys that are hitting it. But do you have any input on the vetting of contractors? Because that is a difficult part that I just haven't had to experience myself because of where I came from.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what you said is my best answer, because I'm in the same boat. I mean, any flip I've done it with a partner who already had the contractor in place and everything like that. And yeah, it's just cuts out so much of the headache, because there's finding the deal, which is the toughest part, and then there's managing the labor, which is probably the second hardest part. Right. So if you can find somebody to partner with, that's the best. Right. All right. Chris Lazarus is asking, driving for dollars, wholesalers, contract designers, personal marketing. What's your opinion? What's your best thing that people should be doing? So this is a loaded question, but we'll see what you got.
Yeah. So the best thing to do in marketing is the thing that you're going to do. I think that it kind of goes very hand in hand with what you were talking about, what's practical versus what's logical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very similar.
That's what I was looking for. Practical versus logical. Nice.
So, one of the things that I had to learn whenever I was trying to figure out how to budget my money was that, and this is like early 20s, and I had to call my dad with my tail between my legs, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you please help me? So like we met with a spreadsheet for wings every couple of weeks and would like go over it. And so there was a very valuable lesson that I learned at that point in time in my life, which was, yes, on paper, I make enough money to put this much aside for this bill and this much aside for groceries and that much aside for, internet. But if hands down for months on end, I've shown myself that I'm going to spend this much money at a restaurant every week, and that's not what my budget is hitting, well, maybe I need to adjust some other things to do what's actually happening and work within the bounds of my reality versus creating this picture of what could be but is never actually going to happen. So I'm going to apply that same principle here. I personally, Grant Kemp, have never knocked doors. It is a great way to buy houses, but I am unwilling to spend my day driving around knocking on doors. Which again, that is my personal Grant Kemp limitation that I have to work around, right? So my success comes from more of the network marketing, whether that is networking through Facebook groups or REI clubs or whatever. I do lots of deals as JVs because I'm a creative guy. I have access to capital that other people don't have access to, so I can fill a void that a lot of people need filled. The knowledge to do the deal and the money to get it done. And that void gets filled by the person who is going out there door knocking or who is making the phone calls or whatever, right? So that's what works for me, and I pour my time into that. You need to pour your time into the thing that you will pour your time into consistently, because consistency is the key to your marketing success.
Grant, I'm just gonna start interviewing you every week because you are speaking to what I go through, right? Like, look, we're a listing-based group, right? I mean, we'll take 2 or 3 buyers on at a time, but mostly we're doing listings.
Okay.
And I don't cold call expireds. It's just not what I do. But you listen to a podcast where somebody's like, oh, I do this direct mail piece and I've done 1 million deals, and that's what you'll start doing. Or you'll hear about and you'll try to do it. It won't be your fit and you'll stop. But those of us that have done deals and have reached some sort of success have found it doing something. And we usually need to focus on doing more of that and focusing on that and not getting distracted by these other things. So I make videos, I do the podcast, we do a ton of social media stuff, but I get tired and I'm like, man, I got to try something else, when no, really, I got to refocus and hammer in on what I do best. Yep. So yeah, that was
and that's one of the things that you should apply not just to your marketing strategy, but to your entire business model too, which is we, and especially as guys, I think, especially as American guys. So we are trained that we have to work really hard for anything that's good, right? Like that's kind of the mentality that is ingrained into American culture, is you work hard and something good happens. And something that we falsely attribute that to, that actually ends up hurting us a lot of times, is we forget to then appreciate the things that come naturally to us because we don't have to work so hard at it. And so we think that it's less valuable because like, oh yeah. But like, man, if I just grind it out and send those letters, like that must be where the big reward is, because I'm going to have to work my butt off to get that. And so we forget to appreciate what comes naturally to us when we could just pour more of our time into what we're naturally good at, enjoy our lives a little bit more, and get success. And we forget that the thing that we're naturally good at is not the thing that everybody's naturally good at. You're fantastic at doing these videos, this marketing promotions, thinking about things from a different perspective than anybody else I've ever met, and I think is beautiful and wonderful. And so you pour your time into that, and that's the right thing to do, because I'm not going to make a phenomenally wonderful Infinity Wars themed promo video. That's not me. That's not my natural genius. I'm going to steal that phrase from Liz Wiseman in Multipliers, a great book. And I've really tried to latch onto that, which is, what is your natural genius? What is the thing that you are great at that comes naturally to you, that you don't understand why everybody else can't do it? Focus on that and use yourself to your highest and best use for your business.
Yeah, we call it your superpower. So
Nice.
we get new agents in, or even our good agents that are trying to figure out how to kind of hit that next level. And it's like, all right, what is your superpower? Like, what are you really good at? And look, in sometimes when you're getting started, you have to try everything. You have to door knock. You have to do open houses. You have to try mail. You have to get on the phone and cold call.
Well, you got to find what your superpower is.
You got to find your superpower. But once you find it, yeah, going all in on that is the sustainable thing to do. All right, Jeremy Knight asks, is Open Door and Bungalow, I don't know what Bungalow is, digging into your pocket? Are you seeing that in your market where people are going to Open Door?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, but I think good negotiators are still able to get past that because of the reputation that Open Door is getting from their online reviews and from how they give you one offer and you actually end up getting another check at the end of the day and stuff. And I mean, I think there's enough ways that a good negotiator can get past that. But I think their model's working, and I think it's going to continue to work probably. And we'll see how long that lasts for them. I think that, the thing is that they came into the business to kill agents, and it's kind of hitting investors by proxy. But their position, their desire was to kill the agent. So I would actually like to hear more from your side of how you feel about Open Door.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting if you get into these real estate forums. I've got Alice just crashed the party. So side note, we're going to see this movie tonight, and so we've got babysitter lined up for her, but in turn she's here with us on the workday, so we can have her there later. So Open Door's coming in. Look, agents are freaking out about it. They're all saying how, they're the enemy, they're this, they're that. I think Open Door is going to take about 30% of the market. And when you look at the traditional market, there's about, 5 to maybe 10, 12% of the market that are wholesalers and for sale by owners. Okay. Most everything else are agent transactions. So I think those are still going to stay there. But Open Door is going to eat, 20, 30% of the market. There's still going to be 70, 60, 70% of the market that's conducted by real estate agents, right? I don't think that's going to go away. But the problem comes down to the value, especially when I talk to real estate agents that have been in the business for a while. They talk about like, Zillow is going to ruin us and all this other stuff. It's like real estate agents are going to get paid where they add value. And if your value is opening doors, you're not going to make any money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if all your value is being able to show a house or be able to take pictures and put it on MLS and that's it, then you're not going to get paid. And so look, I think real estate agents just need to focus on being better at their job and helping more people, and they'll be in business. But if you're looking to like hold, it's like anything else, right? Like you see the industry disruptors that come in and mess things up. They're always taking market share from people that are doing whatever they can to hold on to it, usually using like legislation or something, right? Like cab companies coming in trying to write legislation to keep Uber out. Those type of people are going to get wiped out. The people that are trying to bring solutions will stay in the business. I hope that wasn't too soapboxy, but that's my opinion.
I absolutely love that opinion. I really do, because it took me, honestly, it was 5 years into my career before I met my first agent where I go, oh, that's why you guys get paid.
Yeah.
Like I freaking hated agents because all they would do is take a picture and put it up on MLS and be like, all right, well, we'll see. Give me 3%. Like, why? No.
Yeah.
So finding people who have a desire and a love for the craft and an understanding of your position's the wrong word, but an understanding of your place in the industry and an understanding of you only bring as much value as you bring, and that cap is capped by you, and that you have a desire to be at the highest point of that cap will always win. Because when you put your customer first and foremost, whether that customer is a seller or a buyer or a, whatever, a person that goes to Walmart to buy Coke, and we're talking about Coca-Cola, whoever the customer is, as long as that customer is the most important thing to your strategy, you're going to win.
Yeah. And, I met with the GM of Open Door here in San Antonio, and they're doing 60 to 80 houses a month, right? I mean, just stealing market share. Yep. And, when I talk to them, and I can usually have pretty honest conversations with people, And he said, he's like, we're just focused on trying to make the buying and selling process easier for buyers and sellers. Like, that's what they're doing. They're also, the reason why they're going to be tough for investors, I think, in the future is that they don't really care that much about making money on the buy and sale. They're going to own title, lending. They're going to take all the ancillary services. And so if they have 30% market share and they own title and they own the lending and they own everything else, that's where they're really going to make the money. Because if you've seen where they're buying properties, like, I'm pretty sure they're losing on a lot of them and not making a ton on the others. So that's not their game. But the fact is, though, if a company is coming in and looking to make the client experience better and you're not a part of that, you need to reflect on yourself and say, okay, why is that? You know,
that's a great way of putting it. I really like, so Amazon, I don't know if you know this, but in all of the Amazon corporate meetings, they leave an empty seat at the table, and that empty seat represents the customer, and they always point to it and say, well, what would he think? Right. And I think that that's the way that Open Door is approaching this. I don't hate Open Door. I respect Open Door. I think that they're doing a great job with what they're doing, and for all the same reasons as you do. But I think that it's a reminder to us to stop being so rah, look at this check that I made, and to start being, how can I make a check while still filling a void that's very much needed in somebody's life? And kind of calling a recall to your last question. You know what? Investors do help people when they're doing it right, because sometimes this person needs to get rid of their house right now, and they need to get whatever cash they can for it. And for it to make sense for us to do that, it has to make sense for us to do that. It makes no sense for me to give you all cash for this house that's in crap condition and just break even on it. That would be just helping people. We still have to make money in the middle, and that's where market value comes from, and that's where the discounts are, right?
And it's interesting too. Bobby just posted a question. It totally threw me off. So real quick, I don't have you for a lot longer here, but let's hit this question because I love audience participation. So awesome. Bobby says, what numbers do you base your owner finance deals off of? Which, this is a good question because a lot of people hear owner finance and, flip 70% rule, super easy. They don't really understand the numbers they have to put in place to make an owner finance deal work.
Yeah, because it's far different from, like you said, it's easy to understand 70% or less, we're going to make money. Owner financing, I can buy houses all the way at 105% of the value of the house and still turn a six-figure profit on it. So it's a different way of analyzing the deal.
Give me that. Let's hash. That sounds guru-ish, Grant.
So I actually have a deal that was in Garland. That was now the 105% was easier to hit because it was like an $80,000 house, right? So 105 means that we're buying it at like 84,000. So it's not a huge dollar difference. So there's my guru-y. I gotta have my market somehow. But the thing is that if you look at the interest that is made over time on something like that, that's where my other guru number of a six-figure profit comes out of. Because when you're talking about taking over on a loan that was a loan modification and is at 0.5%, and you are charging 9.9 or 10.5% on a 30-year note, that's a 30-year income, but maybe a 20-year outgo. There's huge profit there, right?
So you're talking about some intricate stuff, which I love it, man. It's so much fun because it never gets old and every deal is different. That's why the stuff that you do is really fun. But is there any rule of thumb?
Yes.
Cut and dry numbers that you use for owner finance?
I've got basically 3 rules of thumb that I like to go by. Okay. My personal minimum cash flow on a deal, and this is purely just a number that I picked out of the air of like, that one. I want to make a minimum of $150 per month per door on any deal that I do owner financing on. Because to me, that's my minimum of it's worth dealing with the garbage that goes with it. Second rule of thumb is I want you to have 2 times cash as equity. What I mean by that is if you're looking at a deal. So first of all, let's just take the premise. What is owner financing, right? Like at its core, in case somebody's, we got a lot of agents, that kind of thing. Owner financing is purely just the seller of the house is providing the financing for the purchase of that house. And that can be done through a couple of different ways. Either they own the house free and clear and they say, okay, I'll sell you my house, but you don't have to give me the $90,000 today. You can give me $90,000 in installments for the next 20 years. Or they have a mortgage to say Wells Fargo, and they say, I will sell you my house, but instead of you having to pay off my mortgage of $90,000, I will allow you to just continue making those payments on my behalf to Wells Fargo. That is called subject to. If from a buyer's perspective, the word sub to in this sense means I will buy your house subject to the underlying mortgage staying in place as is. In other words, I buy the house, I take title of the house, the mortgage stays in Joe homeowner's name, but we continue to pay it. I know that sounds wacky, but it's legit. It's
no,
real.
I think, look, honestly, for hopefully most of the people listening to my show have sub-twos have been around for a while.
Good.
I think most people know about wraps and sub-twos.
Good.
If you don't,
sometimes agents are kind of out of the loop on that, and I didn't know how agenty the agents would be, right? So
if not, they can GTS,
So in these deals, with my rule of thumb is that I want you to take whatever cash you're going to have to put into this deal. I want you to multiply that by 2. And I want you to have that much in equity. The difference between the ARV of the property and the loan that you're taking over should be 2 times the cash that you're putting in. Now, what cash counts for that? Well, if you're buying a house sub 2, they may be $6,000 behind on payments, so there's $6,000. And you may have to put in $4,000 worth of repairs, so there's another 4. So you're into this deal at the time you close with your seller with $10,000. I want you to have $20,000 worth of equity in that deal. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rule of thumb. That's how I'm able to buy houses at 100%. Because if you're not behind on payments, I don't care. I'll buy it at 100%. I'm not risking anything. Because let me ask you this: the whole 70% rule. Why does that percentage exist? What's the point of that percent?
Well, you're hedging your risk.
Right. Anytime you talk about risk, or anytime you talk about percentages, whether it's I'm going to buy at this percent of the ARV, or why is Tim going to get an X percent loan, but Grant's going to get a Y percent loan? It's a management of risk. Okay. Yep. Percentages are always a management of risk. So when you're buying a cash deal for a flip, you have the fortunate ability of looking at all the history of the people that have done flips, and they have said, look, if you buy at 70%, the good chances are that your worst case scenario is that you break even on this deal. We need to protect the cash that you've put into this deal. Therefore, you need a 30% discount. If you're not putting cash into the deal, why do you need a discount? Nothing's being risked. It's similar to like doing a wholesale deal where it's like you've risked your time to go out there, right? You've risked signing on the contract, but you don't have any cash on the line. So if I've got a deal at 100% that's not behind, that does not need repairs, and just need somebody to take over on the payments, I'm going to put that house under an option period. I'm going to go see if I can find a buyer for it. And if I can, I'm going to close on the deal, both front and back end, and I'm making money. I don't mind buying at 100%, but I have no cash on it. So my 2 times 0 is 0. We're at 100%. We're cool. So that's rule number 1. However, sometimes, as we've seen over this past few years, that's not going to make sense because you're going to have a $100,000 house that's $30,000 behind in payments and has $10,000 worth of work. And it's unrealistic to expect to have a house with 2 times cash, meaning $80,000 of equity on a $100,000 house. So my next step down, my caveat for the last rule of thumb is if the 2 times cash rule is unreasonable, then I want you to be in at a total basis of around 82%. So the loan that you're taking over on and the cash that you're putting into it should add up to be about 82% of the ARV.
Well, I got to say, I like it. I haven't heard a lot of good owner finance rules of thumb, but I'm gonna start using that when I'm looking at stuff, because we're looking at some sub twos, some different things. So that's an interesting way to look at it. Anything else, man? I've had you for about an hour. I don't like to keep people for more than an hour. Any things you want to leave with? How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so creativecashflow.com. That is that's my platform of training, right? Like I do like to teach. So here's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur is you get to work in your native genius and you get to find the things that you enjoy doing and do them, right? It took me a while to figure out that I'm actually way more passionate about training than I am about doing the real estate, which is not a very, maybe I shouldn't admit that, but I am. Like I just I like teaching more than I like going to do the real estate itself.
Great. I got to pop in here because it's the same, like I get the same thing because there are so many like sleazy guru coaches out there. Right. Coaching gets a bad rap. Right. But I mean, like I grew up boxing, and even when I was a little kid boxing, 10 years old, I was always passionate about holding the mitts and teaching other people, because I've been doing it since I was like
same
6.
thing. I did karate, and I found out that I love teaching and doing
Love
and
coaching,
showing the lower belts how to do stuff.
And I would get more excited to watch one of my guys win a fight than I would me winning a fight. And I always had that in me. I never really realized until, honestly, the military and real estate is when I had the opportunity to help people. And I'm like, oh man, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Totally. And so I agree with you. So I just want to disclaimer, Grant has a coaching program, but he's not a sleazeball. That's my
I appreciate that. And I've actually done it. So here's the thing: is like when you look at business, you always find the thing, like, what's the thing that you can do that nobody else can? There's not a lot of millennials that can say they've done almost $100 million worth of transactions in less than 6 years, and who know how to teach it. So that's a market that I can take. Therefore, I am taking it. Right. So I like doing that. CreativeCashFlow.com is where you can get a hold of me on that side of things. I would just leave you with this of open your mind to the different strategies that are out there. I think that it's important for us to not. So if you've ever read any kind of like business books, like Good to Great or anything like that, they always revolve around something along the lines of having a laser focus, something along the lines of you've got to put blinders on, push everything out of your way, and focus on the thing that you're good at. Right.
I'm signing up for a weekly call with you, because everything you're saying is my problems.
That's awesome. So that is very true, right? You have to have laser focus. Now, I think that the investor world in general has falsely appropriated that focus to, I'm a landlord, or I'm a wholesaler, or I'm a fix and flipper, when I think that it should be, I'm a single family investor who specializes in blank, or I'm a multifamily investor, or I'm an agent. And the reason I say that is because you need to at least be able to recognize when a deal would make more money under one strategy than it would another. And that way you can either, if you know how to do it, take it down and do it that way, or JV with somebody that knows how to do it and take it down that way. When
you say focus, I'm big on the focus thing. But for real estate investing, I think people should be focusing on almost like on a person and not necessarily a strategy. Like maybe you're focusing on properties with title issues. Maybe you're focusing on probates, or you're focusing, like you said, on networking and working with wholesalers who can't close a certain type of deal. And that's what your focus is.
Yes, I love that.
Once you focus on that type of, then you can have the tool belt to take care of that problem, however it needs to be taken care of. But focus on a lead source, not necessarily a strategy. Be able to do all the strategies.
Love that. I've been saying, call yourself a single family investor. Like I've been saying that spiel. I'm going to steal yours now, but I'll give you credit for it because I think that's absolutely the right way to look at it. We're saying the same thing, but sometimes a small change in semantics makes all the difference in the world. And yours is customer based. And I think that that's the right way to look at it. Is we have to have every solution for the person that we're talking to. And part of that is exploring, at least understanding how to recognize. You may not have known, like you said, the rules of thumb on owner financing. I just made those up, but that's through me having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals under my belt to look at what is it that ends up making a deal and what doesn't make a deal, and how can we systematize this, right? So we've got these rules of thumb now to kind of point to. So at least you can recognize, well, maybe this will fit for that. And if it doesn't, maybe you can recognize maybe it fits for a short sale or a wholesale deal or a flip or whatever that might be. So,
I mean, like, honestly, our thing is we're fun. I wear a t-shirt. Like it's my wife and I, like it's super personal. Like we're friends with most of our clients after we go through a transaction with them, and we focus on that. So we're going to attract more of that business that we're good for. Well, we can work all sorts of different things to help people out, but attracting your type of business that you work best with.
Right.
All right, cool, man. Look, it's 3:00 on the dot.
Check that out.
I like the closing remarks. Where can people find you? Let's make sure we get that.
CreativeCashFlow.com. Also, just check me out on Facebook. You can just hit me up on Facebook. I'm linked here. Just friend me on there. You can always hit me in the DMs. Like I said, if you've got a deal you want to JV, if you've got some questions or whatever that is, let's work it together. That's one of the things that I can do to help you get close more houses. So Grant at CreativeCashFlow.com. CreativeCashFlow.com. I've got a chat box you can hit me up on, or just hit me on Facebook.
Awesome stuff, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. We'll have you back soon. Thanks, brother.
See you.